Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this twofold event, which marks the release of the joint 2021 annual report of OSTI and OLTI, and we also have the OSTI subscriber briefing. The format of the proceedings today will be as follows. I will do an introduction, which I'm doing now, and I will then speak about unreasonable insurer behavior before paying tribute to the staff. Thereafter, Edith Teixeira-McKinnon and Ayanda Mazdi will each do a presentation. We are not prescriptive about the use of video cameras during the events, but we find that often sound quality is poor if multiple cameras are used. We therefore suggest that only the speaker at any given time should use his or her camera if that person wishes to do so. There are no hard and fast rules. The annual report, which is released today, is the second annual report of OSTI and OLTI. Yesterday afternoon, I received a hard copy of that report, which is under embargo until 11 o'clock this morning, when we will hold a joint media briefing. I'm proud to say that it is a handsome and impressive annual report, as you will see in due course. It is well known that for some considerable time, the National Treasury encouraged a self-rationalization process for the four ombudsman schemes, comprising the two offices and the Ombudsman for Banking Services and the Credit Ombud. In line with that approach and striving to improve the service to their subscribing members and consumers, the two offices concluded a shared services agreement towards the end of 2019. The agreement is appropriately named because its express purpose is the establishment of a joint industry ombudsman scheme to be known as the Office of the Insurance Ombudsman. In terms of that agreement, I was appointed as the ombudsman at both offices with effect from 1 January 2020. That agreement envisages the publication of the first joint annual report for the offices, which happened last year. Since the conclusion of that agreement, there have been a number of important developments which have a significant impact on the agreement and on the four ombudsman offices to which I referred. I highlight some of those developments, of which the cumulative effect is that events have largely overtaken the shared services agreement. One is the Financial Ombud System Diagnostic Report of the World Bank Group was published on 29 June 2021 for public comment. This is an impressive and comprehensive document which recommends a single non-statutory national financial ombudsman scheme. The trigger for the implementation of this recommendation is a formal policy decision to that effect by the National Treasury. At present, we are awaiting that policy decision, but there is no telling if and when it will be taken. 2, during May 2021, the Minister of Finance announced the appointments of the members of the Board of Directors of the Ombud Council and of the interim Chief Ombud. 3, and perhaps most importantly, OSTI and OSTI applied to the Ombud Council for their recognition as ombudsman schemes in terms of Section 194 of the Financial Sector Regulation Act of 2017. Those applications were granted on 29 April 2022. 4, progress has been made with a collaborative effort by the 4 ombudsman schemes to which I referred for their amalgamation. A joint position paper has been prepared, setting out the broad principles of such an amalgamation and a work plan towards creating a single scheme. It is envisaged that this document will soon be submitted to the governing bodies of OSTI and OSTI for their consideration, and they may take in principle decisions to proceed with that amalgamation process. The upshot of all this is that there is considerable change in the air for the financial services ombudsman schemes. I want to speak about unreasonable insurer behavior. Clause 416 of the OSTI Terms of Reference and Rule 332 of the OSTI rules deal with unreasonable complainant behavior in the complaints resolution process, and they empower the officers to either decline to consider or to dismiss such a complaint. The distinguishing feature which is common to such complainants is their unreasonable conduct, which falls into 5 broad categories, namely unreasonable arguments, unreasonable behavior, unreasonable demands, unreasonable lack of cooperation, and inevitably unreasonable persistence. I have no doubt that all the subscribers have been at the receiving end of such unreasonable conduct. But I think the time has come to draw attention to the regrettable fact that some insurers are at times guilty of behavior which, on the part of a complainant, would have been classified as unreasonable conduct, which offends against the spirit of Clause 416 and Rule 332. Examples of such conduct are unreasonable arguments, unreasonable persistence, unreasonable lack of cooperation, including the adoption of an adversarial and litigious stance in the complaint resolution process. Fortunately, these insurers are few and far between, but they unnecessarily complicate our complaints resolution task. Some of the more serious examples of such unacceptable conduct were taken up with senior management of the insurers concerned. On those occasions, I drew attention to the following words of the late Judge Nienalder, which appear in the 2006 OSTI annual report, where he is quoted as saying, It is the industry's confidence in the even-handedness of the office's approach to dispute resolution that enables the office to dispose of borderline cases by way of settlement or concession rather than decree, a result that would not have been as readily achievable in an atmosphere of endless confrontation. The dispute handling units of our subscribing members are not our adversaries. We may differ in our affinities, customs, and methods, but with some exceptions, we share a common objective, a just result to a legitimate complaint. It is for that reason that the dispute handling units of our subscribing members should not act as mere apologists for their respective principles. They should regard themselves, as some undoubtedly do, as semi-ombudsmen, cooperating with the office in seeking to achieve a form of closure to a dispute that will leave both the protagonists satisfied, if not in the result, then at least in the fairness of the treatment they received in having their disputes resolved. This sound advice of Judge Ninalber applies equally to both officers and their subscribing members, and it is all the more apposite now in light of the development of treating customers fairly. In summary, I stress that insurers should not treat the officers as adversaries and should not, in the complaints resolution process, address us as if we are their litigious opponents. Recently, an insurer aptly put it to me that as much as our lenses to matters may differ, we are not adversaries. I urge the insurers to bear this in mind at all times. I now wish to pay tribute to the staff at both offices, and I do so by fully endorsing the following which appear in the annual report from which I quote. Firstly, Mr. Haroon Naher, the chairperson of the OSTI board, said this: despite the difficulties and challenges faced by staff in their personal and work environments, they worked hard, worked together, and helped complainants to resolve their complaints. Edith said the following: I am grateful to and thank Ms. Miriam Matabane, our General Manager, for her tireless support during another challenging year. I thank the senior leadership team and all who occupy managerial roles for their passion and commitment to OSTI. I thank each staff member for their dedication and hard work during an exceedingly difficult year. In conclusion, it is my pleasure to express my sincere appreciation and thanks to Edith and Miriam and to Denise Gabriels at OLTI for their generous and unwavering assistance and support during my second year in the new position, without which I would not have been able to manage. Just before I hand over to Edith, I point out that after Ihanda has done her presentation, there will be an opportunity for questions to be put to them. Please follow the protocol which is set out on the slide, which will then be shown. If you wish to put any question to them after the meeting, you are more than welcome to do so. It may also be that it will be more appropriate for them to respond to a particular question after the meeting. Without any further ado then, I hand over to Edith to do her presentation.
Thank you, Judge. Once again, good morning and welcome everyone. Last year, the office lost another staff member, Ms. Khadija Fisher, who passed away on 1 July. We also lost the former chair of our Audit and Risk Committee, Mr. Andre Jordan, on the 16th of June. On behalf of everyone at OSTI, I again extend condolences to their families, friends, and work colleagues. It is against the backdrop of what was an emotionally and psychologically difficult year that I present some of the features of the office's performance last year. The office registered 9,797 formal complaints last year. In 2020, we registered just over 11,000 complaints, so there was a drop of complaints to our office of around 11.7%. Of the 9,797 complaints registered, 259 were COVID-related complaints, with 197 relating to business interruption and the balance of 62 relating to travel insurance. COVID-19 complaints accounted for 2.6% of all the complaints that were registered last year, compared to 7% in 2020. 31 SASRIA complaints were registered by the office following the civil unrest, looting, and damage to infrastructure that occurred in mainly KwaZulu-Natal and Gauteng in July. 23 of these complaints related to commercial insurance and 8 to personal lines insurance. Of all the complaints registered, 43% related to motor vehicle insurance, 22 to homeowners or buildings insurance, 14% to commercial insurance, 6% to household contents, and the balance of 15% to other types of cover and non-claim related complaints. The office resolved and closed 10,879 complaints during the year, 0.7% more than it did in 2020. Those complaints resolved with some benefit to the complainants yielded an overall overturn or resolved ratio of 18%, the same as in the past 2 years, and a monetary benefit of around 197 million rand, of which 97 million relates to and related to the COVID-19 business interruption complaints that were settled by insurers after the courts handed down the judgments on the causal connection between the government-imposed COVID-19 lockdown regulations and business interruption. Many of the complaints emanating from these claims were resolved before the office had to issue any formal decisions or recommendations, and have been recorded as having been resolved through conciliation. Credit must go to the industry for, in the main, settling these complaints speedily after the courts handed down their judgments. During 2021, complaints were finalized in an average turnaround time of 138 days, 2 days more than in 2020. This translates, however, to a turnaround time of 94 days if one excludes public holidays and weekends. The year ended with 332 complaints on the 6-month list. The number came down from 718 in January. 54% of complaints were resolved within 4 months. 16% between 4 and 6 months, and 30% were resolved in around 6 months. The majority of those cases where the office changed the insurer's stance or decision resulted from matters being finalized through conciliation by the parties without the office having to issue formal rulings or decisions. This is a testament to the level of cooperation received by the office from the industry. The highest overturn ratio can be found in the category of other types of cover and non-claim related complaints at 30%. Followed by commercial insurance complaints where the overturn ratio was 23%, 16% for motor vehicle insurance complaints, 15% for contents, and 11% for homeowners or buildings insurance related complaints. 62% of all the complaints were finalized by the Standard Complaints Handling Department, 33% by the Fast Track Department, the department that resolves the easily resolvable complaints, and 5% by the on-transfer department. The on-transfer department handles complaints where complainants have approached us first before approaching their insurers to resolve their complaints. In these instances, insurers are given the opportunity to resolve the complaints directly with their clients before we intervene within a fixed time frame. If those complaints are not resolved in this process, then they follow the normal complaints handling process. 2 formal rulings were issued by the office last year, the details of which can be found in our annual report. These are rulings against insurers. The health and well-being of staff continued to be a top priority for management and the board of directors, and many initiatives that were implemented in 2020 continued to take place in 2021 to support staff, to make staff feel supported during a difficult year. In between the second, third, and fourth waves of the coronavirus, the office was opened on a voluntary basis for staff, but remained officially closed. Office continued with its internship program with 5 new legal interns and 4 new administrative interns joining the program last year. Interns also progressed into their second year of internship, and some were offered contracts of employment. There was 1 staff resignation towards the end of the year. Swiss Re Corporate Solutions Africa Limited joined OSTI as a member last year. As you will see, our annual report theme is Restore, Recover, Reset. The theme is reflective of the final stage that everyone generally goes through when collectively dealing with a disaster such as a pandemic. It is the phase where individuals and communities begin to rebuild their lives and adjust to new circumstances. There is a sense of returning to a former state of being, including returning to a normal state of health, mind, and strength, and at the same time adjusting to a new and different way of life. That brings me to the end of my presentation for now. I will return with a few thank yous at the end of Ayanda's presentation, but I now hand over to Ayanda Mazwi, Senior Assistant Ombudsman and Head of Customer Experience and Public Relations at OSTI. Thank you, Ayanda.
Thank you, Edith, and good morning to all of our subscribers. As already seen, the motor vehicle insurance disputes remained the highest category of complaints considered by OSTI during 2021. OSTI considered 7% more motor vehicle insurance disputes when compared to 2020, which had seen a 12% decline as a result of the pandemic. We do expect that these figures will continue to rise as the country adapts to living with the challenges of the pandemic. The upward trend in the number of complaints relating to accident claims rejected by insurers on the ground that the incident driver failed to exercise reasonable precautions was again seen in 2021. OSTI considered 26% more complaints of this nature. The trend and issues surrounding this formed part of discussions in the industry workshops hosted by our office at the end of 2020 and 2021. It also received a lot of media coverage earlier this year. In the 2021 annual report, we provide additional information on the total number of complaints rejected on this ground, the overturn rate, and predominant reasons for the office's decision to overturn the insurer's rejection of these claims. 48% of homeowners' insurance disputes related to claims for damage caused by acts of nature, and these were mainly storm-related. The primary cause of these complaints concern exclusions relating to structural defects, lack of maintenance, and normal deterioration. OSTI has seen a 23% rise in the number of these complaints since 2019. Considering the changing weather patterns, our office certainly anticipated that storm-related claims would rise, and as such, we engaged in several consumer education initiatives in 2021 to draw attention to the insured's rights and responsibilities concerning this peril. Under the category of household contents insurance disputes, we reported a 17% decline in theft and burglary claims in 2020. Now, the number of these complaints declined by a further 9% in 2021. On the other hand, there is an increase year on year in the number of complaints relating to damage caused by power surges. These complaints increased from 3% in 2018 to 6% in 2019. In 2020, we considered 11% of household contents disputes which related to power surge claims. The number in 2021 was 16%. After the courts provided legal certainty concerning COVID-19 business interruption claims in 2020, the outcome of insurance disputes which were pending in our office, as Edith already pointed out, were then reconsidered by insurers. 15% of these were finalized in 2020 and a further 27% in 2021. The remaining complaints relate to various types of insurance cover and products, and also policy-related complaints. Disputes relating to motor vehicle cover remained the highest in this category at 36%. I am also pleased to give you some insight into customer experience and consumer education initiatives at OSTI. In 2018, we designed and implemented a customer experience strategy to provide a substantive way in which the office's services are measured and evaluated. In addition to the call matrix, customer experience surveys are completed by insurers and complainants at the conclusion of our involvement in the matter. These surveys evaluate our services and quality across a broad range of issues which we see critical to our success. We have a set service level target of 80%. In the year under review, the office achieved an overall customer experience rating of 76%, and this was an improvement from previous years. Under customer experience, OSTI also investigates the service complaints that are submitted through our internal channels, social media, and Hello Peter. Also, as a measure of quality control, complaint files are regularly audited to ensure efficient and fair dispute resolution practices. OSTI also has an escalation committee that reviews cases where the decision of an assistant ombudsman on the outcome of a dispute is challenged by either the complainant or the insurer. Feedback and recommendations are provided at a strategic level, and a detailed quarterly report on the office's performance is submitted to the board of directors, who are tasked with overseeing our performance and that we meet our mandate. Resolving disputes in the shortest time possible remains a common issue raised by both complainants and insurers. Our office remains committed to the development and implementation of strategies to address this. In April 2022, OSTI finalized its service charter, which will soon be made available on our website. The charter reflects OSTI's values and explains what a complainant and insurer can expect from our office during the registration and investigation of a complaint. OSTI also fully supports the growing international and local movement towards the identification of vulnerable consumers in the financial sector. The office's vulnerable consumer policy was also finalized earlier this year. Its implementation will ensure that this category of complainants receive the appropriate care, protection, and guidance that they may need during the complaints handling process. Now, this slide shows the four main categories of vulnerable consumers which we have identified thus far. The policy further identifies subcategories under these. Socioeconomic information on the distribution of complaints provides useful information for the industry as well as our office. In 2021, the highest number of complaints at 38% were received from Gauteng. This was followed by KwaZulu-Natal at 29%. The least number of complaints were received from the Northern Cape, Limpopo, and the Northwest Province. The completion of demographic information has not been a compulsory field in our complaint forms. Our office is, however, currently reviewing this and adding additional categories of socioeconomic information for future reports. Our website and social media are at the top of the list of how complainants heard about this office. This is not surprising since our office upgraded its website and has also strengthened the social media platform that we have with OSTI. In 2021, we also captured and are able to report on the percentage of cases closed under each outcome-based question of the regulatory framework of treating customers fairly set by the Financial Sector Conduct Authority. The highest category captured in 2021 at 39% concerned insured's confidence that they are dealing with an insurer where the fair treatment of policyholders is central to its culture. This was also followed by service of an acceptable standard at 16%. Lastly, OSTI's public relations and communication strategy is to create public awareness and understanding of the office, to also educate consumers and communicate with industry members regarding important information that relates to insurance, complaints, and the office. The challenges of the COVID-19 pandemic forced us to adapt from some of the traditional ways of our consumer outreach. We did, however, continue to publish our quarterly press releases as well as our newsletters. These address important issues affecting the industry. OSTI also featured in over 180 positive press coverage. In addition to consumer and industry workshops, OSTI in addition to the consumer and industry workshops that we hosted in 2021, OSTI has continued to participate in the National Treasury Consumer Financial Education Committee, Money Smart Week, and SAIA's consumer education initiatives. The office also engaged with the Financial Intermediaries Association of South Africa on non-life insurance complaint trends. Our office fully appreciates that consumer awareness and education are key to creating and maintaining confidence in the insurance industry. Now, we have reached the end of our presentations, and we will now give you an opportunity to address us with questions. I will check firstly if we have any questions in the chat box. However, should you wish to ask a question, you may also raise your hand, and we will then identify you, and you will be allowed to ask your question. I'm not yet able to identify any questions on the chat box. All right, thank you very much from my side, and also thank you to Judge McLaren and Edith. I will now hand back over to Edith for her closing. Thank you.
Apologies, I'm on mute. Thank you, Ayanda. If you do have any questions, you're obviously welcome to contact me or Ayanda after this presentation. In closing, as I said, I would like to say a few thank yous again, even though Judge McLaren read out some of the thank yous in the annual report. Thank you to the members for your ongoing and valuable support of the office. Thank you to the chairman of our board, Mr. Haroon Lahe, and each director and all the board subcommittees, namely the Executive, Audit and Risk, and the COVID-19 crisis committees, for your considered deliberations, debates, and guidance. Thank you to the staff for your perseverance and hard work. A special thank you again goes to Miriam and the senior leadership team for your tireless support and your passion for OSTI. Thank you to the interim chief ombud of the Ombud Council, Ms. Eileen Meyer. Thank you to the colleagues at the long-term banking credit ombud offices for the engagements and the collaborations of the past year. And last but not least, thank you to Judge McLaren for your inspiring work ethic, your generosity, and your infinite wisdom. I say again, thank you to you all this morning for attending our launch. As Judge McLaren already mentioned, the report will be, or should be, should I say, available on our website, www.osti.co.za at around 11 o'clock. I thank you for your attendance and wish you well for the rest of the day. Thank you.
Thank you.